Hi and welcome to my Python YouTube channel. It's awesome to have you here. If you like this video, a thumbs up would be great. And make sure to subscribe for future videos. I also have a blog at prosperacoder.com with lots of cool stuff, so feel free to check it out. Here's another video in the Functions in Python series. If you haven't watched the previous parts yet, feel free to do so. Today we'll be talking about variable scopes, so about local and global variables. You can also watch my video on scopes if you want. Variables may have different scopes. A scope of a variable is the part of the program where it can be accessed and used. If a variable has global scope, it's accessible anywhere in the program. If a variable is accessible only in a function, it has local scope. The function body is its scope. Local scope means that it's not available outside the function. Variables can be used only after they are defined. If you try to use a variable that hasn't been defined, you'll get an error. Here's an example where we're trying to use a variable which hasn't been defined yet. City. We're trying to use it before defining it. Let's run this program. We get an error. City is not defined. Good. And now let's have a look at the following code. Here we have the variable name in global scope and the variable age in the function readValue. The function body has access to the variable name, which is in global scope. Even the function body of the nested function, nested readValue, has access to that variable. The nested function also has access to the variable age, which is defined in the enclosing function. So the functions deeper in hierarchy have access to all the variables defined higher in the hierarchy. Here, having access means being able to reference the value of the variable, but not changing its value. If we try to change the value of a global variable inside a function, we actually create a new local variable with the same name, and this will be described in a moment. But first, let's run this code. So as you can see, name was defined in global scope, and both the enclosing function and the nested function have access to it. Also, the nested function has access to this variable age, which is defined in the enclosing function. And now here's a simple illustration of how scopes work. So the nested function, nested readValue, is inside the enclosing function readValue, which in turn is inside the program, so inside the global scope. First, have a look at the black arrows. They show that the nested function is available in the enclosing function, but not in global scope. Hence, there's no arrow from the nested function to global scope. The enclosing function is available in global scope. Now the variables. The global variable name in red is available, so can be referenced in the enclosing function as well as in the nested function. The variable age in green, which is defined locally in the enclosing function, is also available in the nested function, which is deeper in the hierarchy but not in global scope. As long as the variables have different names, everything's fine, but there may be several variables with the same name, and then it's very important to know their scopes. In Python, variables are local if not otherwise declared. So if we define a variable inside a function, it's not available outside it, even if it has the same name. You can modify the variable in the function and it will have no effect on the variables in global scope. For brevity, we call variables with global scope global variables and those with local scope local variables. So let's define a variable inside a function and then try to use it outside the function. So here we have a variable called noun in the function, And in the last line of code, we are trying to print its value. But it turns out that it's impossible. Have a look. We get a name error. Name noun is not defined. The error is due to the fact that noun is only known locally in the function. For the rest of the code, it just doesn't exist. And now let's have a look at the following code. Here we have a variable called noun in two places, one in the function body, one outside the function. In the function body, noun is assigned cat. Outside the function, noun is assigned dog. So we can say we have a global variable noun, which is available globally anywhere in the code, and a local variable noun, which is defined and available only in the function. Actually, the global variable noun is also available in the function body. So the function has access to two variables with the same name. Which one does it choose? Well, by default, it chooses the local one. Let's check out the output. So as you can see, the output from the pluralize function with the argument 3 is 3 cats, not 3 dogs, which means the function used the local variable defined in it. Below the function call, we have one more line of code where the print function with the argument noun is called, and the output from this is dog, which means it takes the global noun variable as its argument. And this is quite clear because outside the function, the print function doesn't have access to the local variable. And now what happens if we only have the global variable? Let's remove the local one, like so. And now the output is 3 dogs, dog. So this time the function doesn't have to choose between the local and the global variable because there's only one and it's accessible all throughout the code, also inside the function body. And now let's make the program think harder. Here's our next code snippet. Well, let's run it first. We get an error, local variable noun referenced before assignment. Okay? So what's the problem here? In the first line with print, in the function, the variable noun is used, but the function can see that the variable is defined below, still inside the function body. If the function can choose, it will always choose the local variable, which is also the case here. The problem is we are trying to use a variable in the first print call where it is still undefined. The function could use the global variable in the first print call, and it would if there were no local variable also defined. But here the function has two variables to choose from, and the local one always wins. Python just doesn't allow a global and a local variable with the same name to be in the same scope. However, we could make the function use the global variable in the first print call, but we would have to explicitly use the keyword global. This must be done in the function body before the variable is used. Here's how. Global noun. Let's run it now. 3 dogs, 3 cats, cat. Now an interesting thing happened. After this function returned, the last print function, which is outside the function and has access to global variables only, printed cat. This is because when we use the global keyword in the function, we start using the global variable, and by assigning cat to noun inside the function body, we actually assign this value to the global noun variable. So now we have only one global noun variable, which is cat. We could even use the global keyword to define a global variable inside a function. Here's an example. Now, as you can see here, x is not defined in global scope, but we don't get an error here, although we are trying to use it here in global scope, outside the function. This is because we first call this function variable maker, and inside this function, this global variable x is created. So if we run the code now, you can see that this variable has been created. Okay, that's it for this video. If you like it, a thumbs up would be great. Also, make sure to subscribe for future videos. If you want to leave a comment or ask a question, you're welcome to do so. Thanks for watching.